Is it really dangerous to charge your battery inside your Radiomaster radio? I've seen some people giving out advice on, well, Reddit, the font of good advice. I've been seeing people giving out advice saying that you need to take the battery out of the radio, plug it into a charger, and charge it in the charger. And it's unsafe to simply plug into the USB port on the radio, leave the battery in the radio, just plug it in, go away for a couple hours, come back, it's charged up. Obviously, that's what we'd all like to do. That's the simple way to do it. But people are going around saying that that's dangerous. And I think I have a way to answer the question of whether that's true or not. I'm Joshua Bardwell. You're going to learn something today. Here's why people are saying it's dangerous to charge inside the radio. It goes back to a thing called balanced charging. So this is a 2-cell battery. It means it has 2 lithium polymer cells. You can't see them because there's heat shrink on the outside, but take my word for it. There's 2 cells in here. They're sandwiched together and they're wired in series. And that means that when you look at the voltage coming out of the battery, it is the sum of the 2 cells. They're going to go from 6.0 to 8.4 volts, depending on whether it's fully discharged or fully charged. And that's all fine. But the problem is that when you discharge and charge the battery, the cells don't discharge and charge equally. They slightly go out of balance. And if you don't do anything about that, you just keep discharging and charging the battery, discharging and charging the battery, they'll slowly get more and more out of balance until eventually one of them will be dangerously low and one of them will be dangerously high, and you won't know because the sum of the two will still be a safe range. You could have a voltage of 6.0 volts coming out of the battery, but one of them is at like 3.5 volts and one's at like 2.5 volts. In other words, is below 3.0 volts. It's at a dangerous level. Likewise, you can get that to happen with overcharging the cell on the high end. So whenever you deal with LiPo batteries and you deal with a LiPo battery charger, at the end of the charge cycle, the charger will balance the cells. It will take the cells and bring them all up to 4.20 volts exactly, and then they'll be balanced. And as they discharge, they'll slightly go out of balance, but then as soon as you charge it, they'll just be put back into balance again. But here's the thing. Radiomaster radios do not balance charge when you use the internal charging. Actually, that's not quite true. Starting with the GX12, they added balance charging. So the GX12 and the T15 do balance charge on the internal charger. Yay, thank you. But if you've got an older radio like the Boxer or the TX16S or any of the others, they do not balance charge. And that means that your cells are slowly going out of balance as you use them. So that sure sounds like the Reddit sleuths are right. The battery is going out of balance. That's a fact. And eventually it will reach a point where it is dangerously out of balance and something bad will happen. That is a fact. But here's the question I want to answer today. How bad is that? I've got these 2 Radiomaster batteries, and they are years old. I don't know exactly how old. One of them is probably 5 years old. One of them is a little bit less than that. I don't remember exactly when I got them, but they are years old, and they have never been on a LiPo charger, and they have never been in a Radiomaster GX12. They won't even fit, or a Radiomaster T15. So what that means is that I can look at them and I can see how balanced or out of balance they are and see just how bad the situation has gotten. 3.96 and 3.91. It's about 0.05 of a volt. Now that's not nothing. They are significantly out of balance. They could stand to be balanced, but is that dangerous? 0.05 of a volt? I think it's, considering that this battery may be 5 years old, I think that's not like, things are bad. What about number 2? 3.77 and 3.77. It's basically perfectly balanced. So this must be the newer one. I don't really know. The takeaway from this, I think, is that it is just fine if you plug your radio in and you charge your battery most of the time. And if you're concerned about it, maybe once a month, maybe once every 3 months or once every 6 months, pull it out, put it on a LiPo charger, and go ahead and balance it and put it back in again. The reason I think that this doesn't matter as much as it does, for example, if you're using, like we always balance charge our drone batteries. The reason I think this doesn't matter much is that the degree to which a battery will go out of balance depends heavily on the amp draw. The more current you are pulling from the battery, the more the internal resistance will matter and the more out of balance the cells will get. So if you've got a drone and you're pulling 60, 80, 100 amps, the battery's going to get very out of balance, and then you'll need to balance charge it to fix it. But if you've got this radio and it's pulling I don't know, but like a couple amps, certainly no more than single digit amps, I would think, then it's not that big a deal and the battery isn't going to go that far out of balance. That's the takeaway. If you have one of these older radios that doesn't balance, every once in a while, maybe pull the battery out and rebalance it, or just take a look and see if it's gone out of balance. Just unplug it, plug it into your cell checker and check. But most of the time, I think you're going to find that the battery stays pretty well in balance. And as long as you don't run so it was 0.05 volts out of balance. So basically I can run this down to like 3.1 volts and both cells will be above 3.0 volts. Nobody will be dangerously low. As long as you don't run the battery down close to the bleeding edge, just stop at 3.3 volts or 3.4 volts, right? Even if it's a little out of balance, it won't hurt anything. That's my take. But I just realized this is a thing that's going around and I could provide some context to it because I've been doing this a long time and have some old batteries that are sitting around. And maybe that information is helpful for you. Happy flying.